Hello and welcome to Who's On Next, the podcast where we talk about things too silly for most teachers to handle. Today, my guest is a jack of all trades. She's a singer, a voice actress, artist, and a musician. It is Chi-Chi.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, even though we just had this conversation when we called.
It never hurts to check in again.
Just to make sure within the last 5 minutes you're still doing okay.
Because you never know, something could have come up. I don't know.
I guess get this started. So I guess like with when I interviewed Will, because you've done so much, I guess what interested you in really, I guess, starting with music, because music's the big thing with you. So.
Well, I guess... So, like most people, I've been doing music since, like, grade school. Because you know how in grade school, at least the ones I went to, you're always required to do some kind of additional music arts. Where you have
like an elective kind of thing?
Yeah, like an elective kind of thing. So whether it means doing an instrument or doing choir, or you can do both. I actually ended up doing both. I was in choir, and in 4th grade, I learned how to play the clarinet. Because you're required to do that in order to learn how to play the saxophone. Then in 5th grade, I learned to play the saxophone, and then I never touched it again.
Was it even just a dislike for it, or was it just you just didn't care?
I was just lazy. I was just a lazy little kid. I was just like, okay, cool. I learned how to play this. I don't want to do it anymore.
Oh, it's like, did they require you to do pre-quarter? Like everyone in class had to learn to, like, play the pre-quarter? Because that was a required thing when I was in elementary school.
Yeah! Did you also do, like, the karate belt type thing with them? Where you got, like, your yellow belt and your green belts and all that?
No, I don't think we ever did that. But it was...
Yeah, we did, like, a karate belt system where it's, like, as you learn more and more complicated songs, you would get, like, another belt. It was a piece of yarn, but it was just, like, they referred to them as belts on your recorder. So by the end of it, you have, like, this whole rainbow of, like, belts, and you're like, yeah, I'm a black belt. What you gonna do about it?
I've never heard of that, because was this for after school, what you're talking about, or was this like your music class? Because this was just...
Oh, this was our music class.
Right, this was in my music class too, but we never did like a reward system or anything, as far as I remember. Also, that teacher the year we started doing pre-quarters was kind of a bitch, so...
Oh, no.
Oh, she did not like me. She did not like me at all, because I couldn't comprehend. I maybe I sound stupid by saying this, but as a 4th grader, I didn't comprehend how to do certain things people were telling me to do with the recorder. So she would like get super pissed off at me.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then I found out
happens.
I found out like years later. I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. I was I was like doing my first year of college. And I remember hearing from someone that she got fired, apparently.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, supposedly she smacked a student.
Oh,
yeah.
no!
Yeah,
oh, my God.
Supposedly she, like, smacked a student in the face or something.
Oh, my goodness!
And
that's awful!
And supposedly, I might be thinking of another teacher, but I remember this teacher was also, like, in a relationship with one of the students, supposedly.
Oh, yuck. Oh, yuck. Yuck, 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 yuck.
Yeah, and she was married, too.
God. Oh, no! Oh! Oh, no!
Yeah.
Hey! Oh, God.
Did you ever have, like, crazy teacher stories like that? Like, not to that, not to...
This wasn't technically a teacher, but this was... So basically what happened is that, you know how in high school you have, like, a play or the musical or anything that happens that year?
Did you have, like, madrigals or things like that? Like, one of those kind of things?
Well, I don't know what that is. Basically, it's, like, because of the way of our school... I went to a very tiny school, and what ended up happening is that the music teacher who was there for, like, decades left, and so basically this is the first year where we didn't have that same that same music teacher. And so for that year, we got 2 different people to do the musical. We got someone who was directing the acting and someone who was directing the music. And this was a very weird musical for us to start out with. This was Return to the Forbidden Planet. and it's a musical. It's a sci-fi Star Trek inspired musical with Shakespearean dialogue and 60s rock music.
Okay.
And it's amazing. But this is a high school. These are high school kids trying to do this. There's no way we're going to be able to pull that off.
Well,
At least
not with a high school budget.
Practice.
No, not with a high school budget.
No. We actually did something pretty cool for what we got, but I digress. So what ended up happening is that, like, halfway through production, the guy who was directing all the music, he vanished. And, like, we were trying to get into contact with him and everything, and we got to, like, the theater where we were holding this actual thing. And, like, there was still no sign of him, and so we hadn't, like, and so the only kind of music practice we got was just singing it to ourselves. And we were like,
was he, like, gone for, like, days, or was this, like...
Weeks! He was gone for, like, weeks!
Oh, my God.
And so it wasn't until, like, a week or two from opening weekend that we found out that the reason the guy vanished is that he was on the run. Apparently, he had, like, some kind of breakdown or something, and he ended up stabbing his partner.
Oh my God.
And so he ran. And so, like, for all those weeks, we're like, holy shit, what are we gonna do? And then luckily, because of the circumstances, we were able to get an extension about when we were opening. And we had, like, this miracle worker of a music director come in. He taught everything. He learned all the music in, like, breakneck time. And it was like, that show wouldn't have happened if it weren't for this guy. Like, holy shit.
Like, did the school not know what happened to him either?
No! The school didn't know what happened either. Because he was not part of the school. We got him from, like, outside.
That's fucking crazy. Oh my God.
It's insane.
Oh my
and that's
God.
still one of the stories I carry with me to this day
like,
regarding like high school projects.
That's like the only, like, the one with me, like, that was when I wasn't even in school when I heard it, or I wasn't at that school anymore when I heard about my teacher smacking someone. But, like, I can't even imagine if that shit happened to, like, one of the teachers at my high school. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was nuts, man. It was nuts.
It's a crazy way to start the podcast. Just talking about
I know, it's like, how am I going to top this now?
weird teacher stories.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
I mean, I guess, when did the whole YouTube thing kick in? I guess that's another thing with music.
That also kicked in high school. Sophomore year, like, I'd say between, like, 8th grade and freshman, I kind of was aware that there was a YouTube singing community. Like, especially, I was really into the Vocaloid side of things, because I was a hardcore anime fan, and it kind of just fed into that. And I saw this huge community of, like, YouTube singers that were on there, and I was like, ah, man, they're so cool. I want to be with the cool kids. Can I be the cool kids? And so finally in high school, I've got my own laptop for the first time. And I was like, oh, I can do things with this. Sorry, I'm serving a lot. And so I finally got the confidence to, like, record myself and put it up onto YouTube. And it's still there. My first ever cover is still there. And it's what you imagine in terms of, like, it's a 10-year-old thing. So it's like, oh, wow. Oh, wow. But I'm still glad I did it, because, like, it takes the first step. That's
definitely my first thing. Like, that's definitely my
exactly.
first.
Yeah, because it's like Jake the Dog said, sucking at something is the first step to becoming decent at something. And so it's like, I'm still glad I did it, because here I am now.
I was going to say, I started out doing ventriloquism videos, and those are all long gone. Like, I was not proud of those videos later in life when I was trying to become a voice actor, and I just deleted all of them.
Like ventriloquist with, like, a ventriloquist dummy?
Nah, they weren't like wood dummies. They were just like felt puppets that I bought, things like that. Like, and I got rid of, like, all those because I was really, really embarrassed looking back on all of them. I hated those videos.
Oh, but that sounds so cute. I would have loved to see what the felt puppets would have looked like. But anyway,
I mean, I still have them.
Like, you should post them sometime. I think that'd be great.
I still have the puppets. I just don't do anything with them anymore.
Well, you should show them off just to be like, hey, this existed.
I was gonna say, all I do now with them is entertain my 2-year-old nephew, and that's it. That's all I do with them.
Oh, That's really sweet.
Stop it.
It's true.
But I guess, well, because there's also voice acting, and did that just come with music, or was that something else that just came later?
I'd say it's more of something. Well, it's kind of related and also not kind of related. Like I started, like the very first thing I ever auditioned for was back when the Voice Acting Alliance was still around.
Ooh.
And that was like way back before I even considered voice acting as a thing. I auditioned for this one comic dub and I got it, but nothing ever came around to it. Like it was still like that ended up happening with a lot of the earlier voice acting projects I ever got a part of. Like it would start up and then they die.
I had probably like 30 of those, like when I was starting out. Like people, I remember talking to Kovacs about this when I interviewed him. It was people that were making things that were too ambitious, or they very clearly didn't know what to do.
It's like they want to do this big, huge epic, and they only have like experience doing one tiny little thing, and you're like, you might want to pace yourself out a little bit more before you jump into the big thing.
Or they had no experience whatsoever. That was the other thing.
That is the other thing. It's like you see all these projects where it's like, that's cool, but that's very ambitious. Start smaller, but baby steps, please.
Like, I remember seeing Behind the Voice Actors still has a casting call section, and I thank it for it's the reason I know a lot of people now. Like, it's the reason I know Chris and Chloe, friends of ours, like, for people that don't know. But it's the reason I know those people. But, man, 90% of the stuff on that casting call were garbage. Like, it was just stuff that was never going to happen, or people that didn't know how to write, or both. Like, things that were very clearly too ambitious.
Yeah. I guess it's also one of those things where it's also, those steps are also a learning curve for people too, where it's like, you gotta start somewhere, even if it's something that starts out and it fails, you gotta start, and then it's just like, well, you learn from it then, or hopefully you learn from it.
Right, because, man, there was just a period where I just remember when Voice Acting Alliance was around, and the BTVA casting call thing was around, and it was like, the majority of things I ever auditioned for just died. Like, they either died, or they didn't get very far, and then they died, or there was some sort of falling out, and then people, like, just killed the project altogether.
Yeah, I feel like that happens with, like, lots of those kind of independent projects, where it's like, when the engine gets started, it's really good, and then once things actually go into, like, now we gotta work on it, it just kind of dies. Exactly.
It's funny, I remember comic dubs were some of, like, the only things that, like, would live, because that's, like, the simplest thing you could make.
Yeah,
because
there was a period of time on my YouTube channel where I was doing, like, a whole bunch of comic dubs.
I've wanted to make more, but again, I think it's a combination of, like, not having motivation to do it is, like, a big thing. Because I'm like, I used to make some. I made, like, several, and then I just kind of stopped doing it because either I just couldn't find anything I wanted to do, or I just didn't have the motivation to do it.
See, I want to do them again. I feel like there's a bunch of stuff I want to do, but it's also, especially when you start building up your channel and all that, it's like more centered around music, and that's what people come there for and know me for. And so it's like, do I want to start going back to it again? And I've dabbled in the idea of starting up another channel, but then you got to start up another channel, and it's like, hey.
Well, yeah, it's when you dig yourself into a hole where people expect one thing from you. That's exactly the major problem.
Yeah, that's definitely, especially today, I feel like one of the biggest, I don't know if that's an issue, but it's like one of the biggest things that happens with a lot of content creators these days is that they build off their reputations, everything off of one single thing, whether it's a single kind of IP that they're a part of in regards to video games or anime and stuff like that. And then whenever they want to branch out into new stuff, it's really hard for them to do it because their audience expects one thing. And it's like keeping that feng shui balance of what you want to do and what you should do and what people know you for. And it's this big old balancing act, and it's always hard.
It's what what do I want to do versus what makes money? And that's
makes
that's a
money
major
or
problem.
anything else in regards to that kind of thing. It's like, we gotta eat at some point. We gotta figure out how to do that and still be happy.
Right. Because, God, I've seen channels where it breaks my heart when they try to branch out and they just either stop doing it or like they try to do something else and it just fails completely when they try to do it because their audience expects one thing.
Yeah. Which is why probably starting up like another channel or another side thing is always probably one of the better moves to do it with. Because it's like, yeah, it's not going to be very big at first and you're not going to have the exact same audience, but at least it's more of like, now you have this avenue to put that stuff out on.
Right. Like, I just always find it interesting when I see people... It's more interesting to me when I see people branch out and they're able to successfully branch out from what they used to do. Because, I mean, I'd say Let's Players are kind of a big thing with that. Like, 'cause
Definitely.
I've seen like Markiplier do the same thing. Where he did one thing, and now he's branched off to doing like 3 or 4 different things at the same time that have all done well. He can put out a sketch and a Let's Play, and they both do well. Like,
I think part of what helps with that is that Markiplier has really built his whole thing off of literally his person himself.
right.
Rather than like kind of everything else around it.
It's the same with even depending on your viewpoint, like Game Grumps is the same way. They've done a lot of the same stuff.
Definitely. Because they have the Grumps, which is like that whole... Is it a sketch? What would you describe that as?
I don't really pay attention to Game Grumps that much lately, so I don't know what they're doing right now. I just know that they've been doing a lot of branching out the past couple years with different shows and different channels
shows
and
and
things
music
like that.
and all that.
Merchandise.
Yeah.
Well, it's to the point that Aaron doesn't even do animation anymore. Like, it's a whole new business now for him. Like, now it's just voiceover and doing the Game Grumps stuff.
Yeah, I think he still does some art stuff, though.
He
like,
still does...
not as prominently, just isn't, like, this main thing he's known for now.
Well, yeah. Because, did Ross leave? He left, didn't he? I think he went on to do his own.
I think he's, like, still in that universe in some regards. He's not, like, a main part of it, but he's still kind of, like, in the ethos of that whole network. I don't even know myself, because I'm just looking from the outside in, but that's kind of just the idea I get from it.
Well, because I just kind of stopped hearing about him being involved, and I knew he was working on his pilot and his new show, so...
Yeah. Which is really cute, by the way. I really
I love it. I love it so much. It's like, I missed seeing Ross do animation. It was really, really good. I loved it. Or more so just him doing standalone stuff. I missed seeing. Because a lot of that era is now, like, professionals, which I find really, really interesting.
It is interesting. It's like, now we're kind of seeing the next wave of, like, new content in terms of, like, the professional side of everything.
Right, because it's like, Josh Tomar is a professional voice actor now. God, who else? I'm trying to remember Oni and Psychic Pebbles have now gone off to do their own stuff. Psychic Pebbles just had his pilot not too long ago. So, like, it's just crazy to me. Studio Yada is, like, tons of Newgrounds people.
Yeah, they're doing, like, a whole bunch of new stuff now.
Yeah, like, that whole group is, like, comprised of Newgrounds animators, mostly, if I remember correctly.
And it's fascinating because because something I always found interesting about that whole kind of cycle of things, that you can always see where someone gets their influences from, and it's always like it skips what the current generation is to the next generation in terms of like artistic influences, because like you can see the influences of like Invader Zim, Billy and Mandy, and those kind of things, and shows that are kind of starting up now. And then in the next probably phase of like animation or stylization, you're going to see more influences from things like Adventure Time and Steven Universe, and it's kind of like you see those kind of cycles, and it's always fascinating to me.
We're kind of seeing that right now. Like, we've been seeing that.
We really are.
I think it's been like the OKKOs, the Adventure Times, the regular shows. Like, people clearly influenced by all that stuff, making projects now. I just find it so crazy because I think about how young some YouTubers are starting up now to be popular.
I know,
and I don't mean like kids or anything. I mean like animation reviewers or Let's Players, and some of those people are like 18 and they've got like 200,000 subscribers or stuff like that. Like
this happened to me very recently. This one SFM YouTuber I've been following for a while. I only learned that they recently just turned 18 in like one of their biggest animations that they've done that's gotten like millions of views. They made when they were 13, and it's like brilliantly done. And it's just my mind is just like blown how talented these kids are these days.
Well, I remember
I feel old now.
It was like I think Pymations made like some of his first stuff when he was like 15 or 16, and that's crazy to me.
It's insane. I barely knew how to use a computer at that age. I barely knew how to use the tools that I'm using these days.
Right. Well, and it's funny because I kept thinking about how weird it was, and then I really thought back to it. Like early, like mid, like 2008, 2009 era. And then I slowly thought about it, and I went, yeah, there were a lot of people that were starting out when they were like 18, like 17, 18. Like, I think the Smosh guys started out when they were like 18. Like,
oh man, Smosh, that brings me back. Ooh.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, Pidgey.
Was that the video?
It's exactly the video you're thinking of.
Woo, Pidgey! Was that video?
Oh, that's a classic right there.
I was like 15, I think, when that video came out.
Yeah.
Like, God.
That's like over 10 years old now, I think, or something like that, or 10 years. Like, now things are like a decade old. And that blows my mind.
YouTube's 15 this year, so... Which is funny because I always felt like it was older when I was a kid. Like, I swear it had been around longer. Like, because when in like 2000...
It still feels new to me. It still feels like real... Maybe not that new these days, but it still feels like it's only... Like, 2008 doesn't seem that long ago to me now. Even if it's more than 10 years old, that still feels recent to me.
Well, yeah, I kept thinking back to, like, 2007. And I remember finding out, like, oh, YouTube was made in 2005. I'm like, I swear to God it was, like, 2003. Like, I swear to God it was, like, that old. Like, it just didn't feel right that YouTube was that old.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Well, it's the same with I didn't know how old Newgrounds was until a couple years ago. I thought Newgrounds was from like 2004. It was like, it's from like 1998, I think, or something like that.
I didn't know about Newgrounds until like much, much, much later in my life. Like, I was one of those kids who was very scared of the internet when I was first learning about it and stuff like that. And so... Kids, it's like parents always say, there's strangers and mean people on there, you're gonna get kidnapped or you're gonna get us all killed. And
I thought you were thinking like you were afraid of the internet because of commercials that would always say, ask your parents' permission before going online, or something like that.
That's part of it. I'm not gonna lie, that was part of it. But I was really afraid to kind of stray out from a couple of different websites, unless I was with my brother, because my brother is really the one who got me into like the whole internet and gaming culture of everything. And so I remember, like, I only recently remembered it. Like, I think this was on Newgrounds or it was somewhere else. There was this old animated series called The Unforgotten Realms, which was this old like animated D&D type thing. And I only recently remembered it, and it was like, oh, wow, this is old now. I'm old.
I think it was like, I started using Newgrounds at a point that I don't think I should have.
No.
I think I started using Newgrounds when I was like 9 or 10, which, here's the thing, I was 10 or 11, but... I just remember, because it was when I was starting to regularly use the internet. And I remember during that period, I would only ever look up, like, Sonic the Hedgehog stuff. And Mega Man, and I think one day I looked up like Mega Man games, and I got led to this page for some site called Newgrounds, and it was like an entire page dedicated to projects that were Mega Man related. And I just played all these Flash games, and I watched all these like old Flash animations or just videos, sprite animations people made. And I mean, again, a lot of stuff. There was some stuff in there I probably shouldn't have been watching. Like, not anything like graphic, but I guess like in terms of vulgarity or things like that, things I shouldn't have been watching as a kid.
Yep.
Because I think that was during that period where I was just kind of getting... I got drawn into internet culture at an age that I think I was a little too young. But I say that now knowing how there's kids using the internet when they're like 6 years old now, and I don't like that.
I know.
I don't like that. See...
That's too young.
If you used the internet as a kid, what did you do? Because all I ever did was two things. Actually, three. It was Nick.com, Cartoon Network, or Neopets. That's all I did as a kid.
Those were like my main stuff. That was definitely my main stuff when I was first kind of learning what the internet was and how to use it, especially in grade school. Because like those are the only sites that like anybody would allow me to go on. I think I might have gone to like PBS Kids for a little bit too, mostly because they always had the commercials for it, and I was like,
right,
I need to see this one day.
But
it was mostly the Cartoon Network games.
Right, it was just because, well, as a kid, that's all that matters to you. You don't think there's any other websites except Google. Like, you just don't think about it as a kid, because your whole world as a kid is Disney, Nickelodeon, and Cartoon Network, and you don't think that there's any other websites except Google. Like, that's literally it. Because all I would do was go to Cartoon Network and play Flash games. Like, old Flash games. And some of them don't exist anymore, and it makes me sad.
Or if you were in school, you would also go to Brain Pop.
Did you have fun math games? That was another one that we went to as a kid.
I think we had that one as well, but I was mostly a Brain Pop kid.
Which one was Brain Pop?
That's the one with, I think Brain Pop is I might be saying it wrong, but it's the one with the robot and there's a robot and a guy and they usually talk about science. Was that the turtle? No.
There was like a turtle game I always remembered, and it was on like one of those sites, but I don't remember what it was.
I don't remember that one. But I remember on the Cartoon Network site, the one game I got super duper obsessed with was Flight of the Hamsters.
Ooh, well, because Neopets had a game similar to that. It was like Whack-a something. Like, it was like a baseball bat. Like, and you would launch it, and you would see how far it would go.
And you would try to go like as high up as you could. Because in the Flight of the Hamster ones, you could go all the way into space, and you would just see how long you would stay in space before you had to fly down.
Yeah, I remember the Courage the Cowardly Dog ones are always one I remember a lot from that time.
Yeah.
Like the Fear TV, I think was what one of them was, which was like a point and click game.
I remember there was this Evil Con Carne one where it's basically you living your evil fortune. Yeah, you know the one!
Oh, that was one of my favorites. That was the tower defense one.
That was the tower defense one.
Oh my god, that was like my favorite one, and I still go back to that if I can find it. Like, because I did find it on a website not too long ago, and I still play it. Like,
yeah.
Oh, that was so good. Well, and there was the Harem Scarum Billy and Mandy one, which was based on
that one.
We're so old.
We're so fucking old. Oh my god.
We're so old.
God. Well, I did not expect this conversation to go here.
No, I did not expect. How did we get here? How did we even get here? We were talking about voice acting, and somehow we ended up. Okay, we were talking about Newgrounds, I think, and that's how we got here. That's how we got here. Oh my god, that was like a 7-minute diversion from the conversation.
Oh god. Oh, the old recesses of our brain wrinkles.
Oh my
and
god,
what they
well that's
remember.
what happens when you get two people in their mid-20s that had similar upbringings on the internet together. They just talk about Neopets or things like that, which that still exists.
I know, that's crazy. And they updated it. Like not like super recent update, but like updated in a period when I wasn't on there anymore, so it does look different.
It doesn't look super different though. That's the thing. The site still looks almost the same. Like, it's just a
Definitely,
little
like,
bit
the
different.
font and stuff like that is all the same.
Yeah.
Have you seen, like, the original look of, like old Neopets? Like, when it was first getting out and stuff?
I didn't start using Neopets till maybe I was, like 7 or 8. So...
Because it's like because it looks like clip art, kind of. It was basically like someone was using clip art to kind of like make all the creatures and the designs and everything, and it's like wild.
Was it? It wasn't like one of those sites where like you can still magically find some of the sites from like 1997 that look like just one page and just Arial font text or something like that.
I don't know if it was like that old, unless he used like the time machine thing on it. But I remember seeing a post about it, and I was like, "Whoa!" And
it's like the Space Jam website that still exists, and I love it because the site disappeared a couple years ago, and then Warner Brothers renewed the page, so Warner Brothers is fully aware that the page is still up and are paying for it, and it's like the oldest website on the internet that still exists.
That's friggin' amazing. I love
it's from
that.
1996.
Yeah. Okay, so the Space Jam soundtrack is amazing.
Yes!
It is one of the best. I remember I was going through a Dimples records one day, and I found the soundtrack there. I was like, I have to have it. I have to have this. And I remember playing it.
It's like one of the. I call it a time capsule soundtrack, where it's like it's like some of the best singers from that era, like all together on an album, pretty much.
Exactly.
And R. Kelly, but
yeah,
it's like. Well, it's particularly the rap and R&B singers of the time, like specifically. But there's some 80s songs in there too. It's like I say the soundtrack to heavy metal or Transformers the movie are also like time capsules for like 80s music.
Oh, totally.
In particular.
Yeah, it's one of my Space Jam is one of my mom's favorite movies that she goes back to sometimes in terms of just like she remembers how much. Yeah.
I can't hate it. I think it's too charming, even if there are things that are not good about it.
It's like totally dated. It's definitely aged a lot, but it's like the age adds like a little bit of charm to it almost. Like, it's not amazing, but it's just so much. It just has so much fun with itself.
That's
and
the
it's
thing.
Just like,
I can't. I know I'm supposed to not like it, but I can. It's too charming. It's dumb as shit, but it's so charming.
Fun. It's so dumb, and it's so fun, and it's just like...
And I cannot wait for the sequel. I can't wait.
I just want to know what they're gonna do. I'm just curious to see... Is it also gonna be a time capsule, you think, of, like, everything that's been going... Of, like, culturally what we're like right now? I'm just fascinated to see what it's gonna happen.
I don't want a Trump joke in a Looney Tunes movie. I don't want that. I don't want that.
Okay, yeah. Okay, maybe not that far, but like other things.
Not that kind of joke. I don't want that. I don't want political jokes in my Space Jam.
Oh god.
But I mean, I think they did recently confirm it's going to be completely hand drawn. Like they're doing hand drawn animation again.
Like completely the whole entire thing? Or is it also going to be a live action hand drawn thing?
It's going to be live action animated hybrid again, and they've confirmed it's going to be hand drawn.
Okay, yeah, that makes total sense.
Which makes me happy, but I would have been cool if they had done the CG like those shorts they released a couple years ago. Like I would have been fine if they did.
I don't think I saw those.
Oh my gosh, they took old albums from Mel Blanc and they animated them with CG, and they're so good.
Oh, I saw those, especially like the Daffy Duck one.
My god, the Daffy Duck one is like one of my favorite Looney Tunes things ever made. That's such a good short. I love that one.
Oh my god. Speaking of Looney Tunes, the HBO ones, those look. I haven't seen this yet, but from the clips I've seen, it looks like...
They just released one of them. They released one of them online.
Oh dang! I haven't seen that. I gotta check that out.
It looks so good. I watched it. It looks so good. It's like the animation is so good.
Man. Oh.
This is what
What
happens.
kind of time machine are we in right now?
This is like the Kovacs interview. This isn't even an interview anymore. This is just like a
it's just shooting the shit.
I mean that's kind of the half basis for the podcast. So
Exactly.
it's just half interview, half shooting the shit. But this has just been like 85% shooting the shit.
But I guess back on the interview itself.
I guess this is something I find I'm interested in with people that make their own projects or things like that. Has there ever been something you made or you kept trying to fine tune and you just never finished it, or you just weren't proud enough of it to finish it?
Oh God, yes. Oh my God. So, like, you know that expression people always use, like the tip of the iceberg type thing?
Yeah.
Like, that is kind of like my projects as a whole. Like, the tip of the iceberg is stuff I've released. The rest of the iceberg are all the projects underneath it, baby. There's just like so many different projects that I have. Like, they're either half finished, they're 3/4 finished, or there's certain parts of it that are finished, but I just haven't gotten around to, or I never got around to doing stuff for it. Like, the next big project that I have released coming the 22nd of this month is something that's kind of been in the work for like almost 2 years now, I gotta say, or at least like a year and a half. And it's just because I only recently got together with everything that I've been with, like everything else that I was involved in, or other pieces of projects. I'm like, okay, I'm happy with this now, but I'm not happy with that, and X, Y, and Z, that I've been able to finally kind of sit down and be like, okay, we're doing this now. I need to do this now.
I'm not depressed or bored anymore. I'm gonna finish this, and it's gonna be good. It's like, oh my God! Like, is there a file that, like, what's the oldest thing you never finished? Like, is there a file buried on your computer from like 6-7 years ago?
Maybe not 6-7 years ago. Well, actually, oh no, there is, or at least it's been like 5 years ago, 5 or 4 years ago. There's this one comic dub that I meant to get around to, but I never got around to putting everything together because I was kind of at the point where I was trying to shift, where my channel's kind of shifting as to either being mainly music or mainly comic dubs, and I didn't know what to do about it, so it just kind of never got made. And I still feel bad about it because I really like the lines that I asked for, and it was good. And it's just like, I need to find I don't even know if I still have the files for it. It's just been so long.
Do you remember what specifically it was?
It was for this, it was this one Johnny Bravo and Samurai Jack comic that was about like those Laundry Day shorts.
Oh,
and
okay.
I did the first one, and this one was a continuation off of that one. But I never got around to editing it together.
I thought you were talking about those comics that like have been recently coming out for a second. Like, there's been this new thing of like future Johnny Bravo and future Samurai Jack, like old man Johnny Bravo.
I saw those going around, but this was before that, because this is when the ship was just kind of starting to get around.
What, with the Cartoon Network City thing, with them doing the one?
Yeah, this is when that was just starting to come around and stuff like that. And I was like, I know this guy and this guy. They can do the voices. I can make this happen. Because I am very picky about that. Like, I am very picky in terms of, or I don't know if picky is the right word, but it's like, as soon as I hear someone and they sound like they can do the voice of X, Y, or Z, and I see that comic and that person, and I'm like, I need to make these two connect.
Their voices are fucking perfect. They need to go together now.
Exactly.
It's like, but what about, I guess, is there like a song? Like, is there one particular song that you never finished? That's another one.
There is this, well, it's like, I don't know if it's finished or, because it's like, sometimes you gotta be at a point where it's like, I don't know if I can call this a final product or not, even if it sounds complete or it's like compositionally it's complete. But there's like, is this finished enough or polished enough to release? And then sometimes I'm like, no, I can't release this yet, but I also don't know what to add yet because I don't have the skills for it yet, but I also want to release this, and it just kind of loops like that for like a couple of years. And I have definitely a couple of projects like that. I have a lot of original compositions that are kind of like more film score-y, or more kind of just like no vocals involved or anything, that I haven't released at all. But because of what I'm mostly known for, which is my voice, I never really got around to posting posting it or anything like that. I just didn't know how to post it in a way where it's like, would people be interested in this?
Yeah, because I've tried editing things before, like comic dubs, things like that. I've recorded so many songs that every time I recorded it, I was just like, I just don't like how this sounds, or I just don't like how it's coming out. Like, I've had that so many times.
There's a lot of things like that.
I want to do covers, but every time I listen to myself, I'm like, ooh, ooh, there was a voice crack there, right there. Ooh, there's another one. Ooh, no,
I have a couple of projects like that where it's like, I can't get this one take exactly the way I want it, so I can't do it.
There's like one particular line I can never get right, or something like that. Like, that's the one that drives me the most crazy when I'm trying to do a song. Is it, ooh, I just can't get like one line right, or my voice can't reach this one note.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, I'm just gonna bury this on my computer and never finish it.
Which is kind of like, I recently posted this on my Twitter. Like, I only recently went through like this knucker hole of like old songs from like my Vocaloid days, where it's like, I really want to do this, but I don't have the skills or the range for it at all. And so like the past couple of days, I kind of went through a period where I was just recording like a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, I can do this now. I actually sound okay on it. But this song has lost all relevance. I don't know if I can release it.
God, there was a song I was trying to record recently, and I couldn't hit one note, and I did it like 5 times, and I remember I did a small cover of Other Friends, and I put it on Twitter like several months ago, and I could not get the last like few lyrics of the song right, because oh my god, I just couldn't. Every time I listened to it, every time I recorded
song.
It,
it's a very difficult song.
I was able to do the first part fine, but I think it was the who am I, like after that lyric, I couldn't get it no matter how many times, and I was just like, I'm just gonna release the first half. I'm not gonna I can't do this.
It's hard because she, especially in that part, because the singer goes all over the place. It kind of goes up and down in like little lines that are extended here and there, and it's very hard to keep up with all of that. Like, especially for me, the biggest thing about it is that song, when I tried doing it originally, because I did a cover of it and I put it up on my channel, it was too low for me. Like, it was very hard for me to hit those notes in a way that I thought sounded right, and so I ended up having to actually pitch up the song because it was too low.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I find that interesting because you have a very high and low range for a female singer. I
guess so. My low range has definitely improved over the years, because I used to be like very much a very limited mezzo soprano for a long time, because it was very hard for me to hit lower notes, or at least audibly hit those low notes. Like, it's just kind of like the self-criticizing thing coming out again, but it's like, I still don't feel like I have the range that is like good to be considered a good low range for myself, and so it's like, I still struggle on some notes, but I'm definitely better than I used to be, and I lost track of where I was going with this, but anyway.
I had an idea, and I lost it halfway through, and I don't know.
It happens to me so much. Like, I'll be mid-sentence on a thing, and I'll completely lose the original, where I was originally going with it, because I go off into another spiral of ideas.
We can talk about the intricacies of Neopets games, but we can't remember our track when we're actually trying to have a serious discussion.
Exactly.
Oh,
I mean, I guess the other thing, well, because you're also an artist, and I guess
we're really late in the game with this in terms of the interview. We're so far in, but I guess asking the question, was that like an early thing when you were wanting to be an artist?
That was the first thing. Way before I did any kind of music or anything like that, I did art first. Like, I never expected like music and voice acting to be my thing when I was growing up. When I grew up, I wanted to be like an artist. I wanted to draw and paint and all that. Like, I never expected, because, like, that's very much what my family was centered around. I'm the only person in my family who's really, at least in the later part of their life, is doing like music and stuff like that still. My family was very much a visual arts family. Like both my mom and my dad are architects. And so it was very much kind of more drawing and stuff like that. It was much more a part of what my family was about.
So it was kind of like it. I assume art wasn't shoved down your throat as a kid, but I'm.
Oh no! I took to it. I took to it very easily, and so it's kind of like I wanted to do more of it. But like, I guess music was always on the side, kind of like from my family, but it wasn't really a major thing when I was growing up with my family. Like, my mom used to play flute for a while when she was in like high school and middle school, and both my parents, because in college you learn to do guitar for a little bit. And so they did guitar for a tiny bit of time, but I never saw them really playing when I was growing up.
So it was much more just the straight art than it was the musical side more than anything. It was just
I would
kind of
definitely
like
say so.
It was you found out from your family, oh, you also just happen to do music. You just are more into this one other thing, basically.
Exactly. I guess what I really saw it as a possibility is for a tiny bit of my brother's life, he tried to do a YouTube channel. I don't think it's around anymore, but he was like doing raps and stuff like that, and they were really good. Like, my brother is like a really good writer, and so I kind of dipped my toes into it a little bit, just seeing how it would go from his end.
Yeah, say I've never been a good writer when it comes. I can write, but I can't write music, and every time I've ever tried, it's
hard. It's hard because it's a completely different party. Well, not completely different, but it's definitely a different part of your brain.
Well, because it's having to make sure it flows smoothly. It's having to make sure it rhymes. It's having to make sure that the lyrics make sense. It's something it's the one thing I've never really been able to do when it comes to writing is musical stuff. I'm able to I guess I'm able to collaborate or at least help with certain things, but I'm not able to just go full on and go, I can write music. This is something I can do.
Like, so that's how I feel still to this day. Like, I can't read music, and like I can't remember exactly what chords look like stuff. Like,
I've never ever been able to read music. Like
I consider myself musically illiterate in terms of like I can't remember how to do certain things. It's all kind of ear and practice for me.
I think that's why
I have
my
a little
music
cheat
teacher
sheet of
didn't
chords.
I think that's why my music teacher didn't like me. Because
I know I definitely frustrated my teacher with it.
Oh, as a kid, I could not. Because I remember there were periods where some of us would all have to play like certain parts of songs together on our pre-recorders, and I was always the one that would fuck it up because I can't read lyrics. Or not lyrics, I can't read notes. I can't read musical notes. Like, musical notes are just gibberish to me. Like, and I just always remember. Yeah, well, it's the same with piano. Like, I know how to play the piano a little bit, but I am
scared of reading piano music because it's like you have to do two. Because I've tried it, but like I can't do the two different things at the same time with your hands part of it.
Oh,
and
God,
then you have to read for music for two different hands, and you have to make that work in your brain somehow. And it's like, ugh.
Oh no! What makes a piano even harder? You think a piano is hard? Try learning to play an organ.
Oh God.
An organ is like 8 additional like steps to hit. There's like another 2 layers of keys that you have to use. Like, it's I've never personally played organ, but I've known people that have played organ, and it is a nightmare to learn how to play, and it takes a lot longer.
I am not going to learn how to play an organ.
Ooh. Well, also, you can't really play one outside of a church, so...
That's also a big part of it.
All right, but I gotta say, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here. This was a lot of fun. I didn't expect the conversation to go where it went, but I'm glad it did.
Off the wall. Is there anything you want to promote? Anything in particular that you can think of?
Well, May 22nd, pay attention to my channel. I got something very, very big coming out there. It's Smash Brothers related, so definitely check that out. And, yeah. There's also, like, do you have a Twitter or anything you want to promote? Oh! Yes, so, you can follow me on Twitter, ChiChiAI. You're probably gonna find the description or somewhere there, so, Just look there. And I also got my YouTube channel. Just type in Chi-Chi onto YouTube and find the icon that has me doing the kitty face with holding a controller, and it's all green. And then you found me.
Find the little green gremlin. And then
Exactly.
The little green shirted gremlin. Actually, I've always wondered where did the AI come from in the Chi-Chi name?
Oh, so Now this is a fun story. This goes back to my original first username.
The interview is not over yet, even though we just promoted. This is still going. This is the last question. We'll end on this.
Sounds good. So my first username that I ever made, this was back when this one website, Tinier Me, was around. It's like a gacha site where basically you use virtual money to kind of get all these different things to put on your avatar and make it look all cute and all that. And I wanted to come up with a cute name, and so I went up going with Chisana Ai, which is Japanese for little love. And so I went around with that name for a while. I used it for my YouTubes and all that. But the thing is that when I tried using that name on YouTube and live stream, back when it was just live stream, the website,
yeah,
nobody knew how to pronounce it, and it was very long. And something that I also found out through my singer community is that lots of people usually have these very long usernames, but they had like short aliases. So I ended up going with Chi-Chi. It's like a shortened version of it because it's much easier to say and it's much easier to understand. And so the Twitter name was just Chi-Chi AI, and the AI comes from my original username. So it's just Chi-Chi AI because Chi-Chi was already taken on Twitter.
I was gonna say, I actually never knew where Chi-Chi came from. Like the Chi-Chi, I just figured it was like Dragon Ball or something. So
that's what everybody says. Like, I definitely thought about. That only occurred to me later when I made it, but usually it was just a shortened version of my original name.